Hello everybody, welcome to Hammer the Backlog, the Warhammer miniature painting productivity and accountability blog, which, as you can see, is also now a video series. If you're new to Hammer the Backlog, which you probably are considering this is the first video, let me give you a little bit of background on the project first. Hello, my name is Mick, nice to meet you. I have been a miniature wargaming collector and painter since the 90s. There's a great debate at the moment about whether it was 1996 or 1997 or possibly even the depths of 1998, but you know, nearly 2.5 decades of collecting miniatures. In that time, I have almost never actually played these games, but I have collected and collected and collected and ended up with quite a shameful pile of unpainted miniatures. That is where Hammer the Backlog was born. Hammer the Backlog is a project that forces me to look at my collection, my pile of shame, some people call it, the pile of opportunities, others call it. I call it the backlog. The backlog is enormous. I have more unpainted miniatures than I could probably ever finish in a lifetime if I didn't do something about it. So I made a decision 3 months ago that I was going to stop buying new miniatures and paint everything that I had. Not only that, I wasn't going to make it painful for myself. I was going to keep this fun. So each time I was setting up these targets, these trays, which we'll go into in a few minutes, I had to find something that spoke to me, something that I was excited about doing, something that I wanted to enjoy doing for the next 3 months. I've said a few times, 3 months. I am using quite a business mindset on this project. I'm not a full-time YouTuber, I'm not a full-time content producer. I have about 8 to 10 hours of painting time a week. And in the past, that was never enough to get anything done. So I decided to break the year down into quarters. At the start of the year, I set myself a target for everything that I was excited to get painted that year. Then I broke that down into manageable chunks, which you can see on these trays in front of me. Basically, these 4 trays represent 1 year's target for Hammer the Backlog. We're going to start today, the first quarterly review of Hammer the Backlog, by taking a look at quarter 1. Quarter 1 is finished. We have achieved our targets of quarter 1. Let's very briefly talk about them. Then we'll move on to quarter 2 and quarter 3 and quarter 4 and the rest of the year. So if you have been following the blog in any way, you have seen these fellows before. These are the Warhammer Fantasy Battle 5th edition from 1996. These are the Bretonnians from that starter set. If you want to hear more about the story of how I came across these, you can visit the blog after the video, please. But these are 24 bowmen and 12 Bretonnian Knights of the Realm. In Hammer the Backlog, I'm using a system of breaking models down into how much painting effort, how much energy they take, rather than being concerned with the number of models. So each one of these fellas, the normal men, just the ordinary innocent men, is 1 point. So these 12 Bretonnians, they were worth 12 points in the Hammer the Backlog scale. These other Bretonnians, 12, and each knight was worth 3 points. So we have here about 63 points worth of Hammer the Backlog effort. That project is now done. Quarter 1 is finished. We've achieved the targets. We're going to move on. That leaves us with 3 more potential targets for the rest of the year. The rest of the year has 3 more quarters, and we have 3 more trays of miniatures. These really could be done in any order. I could even, arguably, take some miniatures from here and put them over here. But in the background, off camera, I've done a bit of work on deciding how many Hammer the Backlog points each of these are worth. So for example, this tray is pretty packed. This tray is full of lizard men. The lizard men are the other side of the 1996 starter box, we've got 20 Saurus Warriors and 32 Skinks. Each one of those is worth 1. Nothing special on this tray. Each one of those is worth 1 Hammer the Backlog point. 52 points, 13 weeks. That means I can probably do 4 or 5 models a week and easily achieve this target. At the moment, these guys are probably the favorites for the next step of Hammer the Backlog, for the next quarter. There will be a certain satisfaction in getting these fellas finished so they can finally match up against these fellas across the battlefield, and I can have them painted in the way that 16-year-old me always imagined he would be able to do at the age of 40. So that might be a good reason to get these done. There's another little extra surprise on this tray. My good friend Andy from Mediocre Hobbies, whose channel you should definitely go take a look at and subscribe to if you aren't already, sent me this little surprise as a reward for getting my Bretonnians done. So we also have a Green Knight, a fine cast Green Knight on this tray. He's going to be a bit of work. If you have any experience with fine cast, you probably remember that this isn't going to just pop straight out of the package and be ready to paint. So I might consider him as 10 points, which would make this tray 65 points, 62 points for the next quarter. 62 divided into 13, that's about 5 a week. Completely achievable. These guys are probably the front runners. The other 2 trays that we have here are both from Blackstone Fortress. The tray on the left is what I would mostly consider phase 1 of Blackstone Fortress. So we have models from the base game. Some of them are half painted, some of them are already 3/4 painted, some of them are base coated, some of them are barely even assembled. It's a real mix. We have the base game, what's left of the base game, and we have the first 2 expansions here. We have the Dreaded Ambull and Traitor Command. So there are some questions about these. For example, I have this robot here who's almost fully painted. So I can't in good conscience consider finishing him to be worth 5 Hammer the Backlog points. So he'll probably be counted as 2. That means that this tray altogether is worth about 49 Hammer the Backlog points, which is considerably less than the fellas over here. That would mean that in the quarter, when I decide to do them, I'll have a little bit more time to do some extra bits, some random bits and pieces, maybe finish off some smaller projects, maybe put a Blood Bowl team in or something. That's those guys. The final tray is from the second phase of Blackstone Fortress. It is the Explorers and the, what are they called? The villains? No. The baddies? No. The enemies? I can't remember what they're called. It's the Explorers and the baddies from the next couple of expansions. So we have Ascension, Escalation, Deadly Alliance, and No Respite. This tray, of all of the trays in front of me, has the fewest models, but in the Hammer the Backlog counting system that I'm using, each character model counts for 5, because 5 models is roughly what I can paint in a week. And I can paint 5 standard infantrymen in a week, or I can put the same amount of time and effort into painting 1 character model well. So, although this tray is the smallest in terms of size and weight and number of models, it is almost the highest in terms of the amount of effort it will be. This is about 55 points. So the thing I have to do now is decide what are the targets for the next quarter going to be. In the previous quarter, the targets were to finish the Bretonnians, to launch the blog, and to have a consistent upload schedule to the blog and to Instagram. All of those targets were achieved. Now for this quarter, I want to set some painting targets and some non-painting targets, exactly like the previous quarter. The first target that I'm going to set for the next quarter is to finish the Lizardmen. These guys are ready and waiting. The temptation to get them matched up against the Bretonnians is too much. And one of the biggest long-term goals of Hammer the Backlog is for me to get every single one of my unpainted box sets finally finished. That's why these guys are going to be the first target, rock, special priority, whatever we want to call it, for the next quarter. We'll be finishing this tray of Lizardmen. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach with the Green Knight, and I'm also going to make finishing the Green Knight a quarterly target. Now that seems a little bit strange based on the system, because he's a single model. Surely he should just be added into this pile and be 5 points. But there's going to be a lot of cleanup work on this guy. I might have to find some pieces. I might have to learn how to sculpt a little bit to fix some of the problems with Finecast, maybe learn some green stuff skills. So rather than just trying to squeeze him in to 1 week as a character model worth 5 points, I'm actually going to make him the second target. So the second target is get the Green Knight fixed, repaired, built, painted, all up to what I would be happy with calling a display standard. He is a special character after all. He was also a gift. He's made of Finecast, and he is considered by many people to be one of the finest models that Games Workshop has ever made. So let's do him justice by making him one of the quarterly targets. So in the previous quarter, we had some painting targets, paint the Bretonnians, and some non-painting targets, get the blog done, get the Instagram built up. In this quarter, I'm going to set the quarterly target of getting the YouTube channel launched and off its feet, and with 2 videos. This channel is not going to be a high frequency channel. This channel may not have any viewers at the end of the day. Most likely what this channel will have is video updates once per quarter, where we analyze the previous quarter and look at the successes and failures, and we decide on the targets for the next quarter. I'm not intending for this channel to become a tutorial channel or an advice channel, but the main thing about this video existing is Hammer the Backlog is built on accountability. So I've been using a website called Instant Agency Tools, and I use this to keep myself accountable. Since Hammer the Backlog is run like basically a small business, a startup business, Mick, hello, I'm the one responsible for everything. I do the painting, I do the decision making, I do the videoing, I do the uploads. That means that the only person up to now holding me accountable has been me. That's what's going to change, and that's why we're going to launch this YouTube series. Even if 5 people watch this video, I have now committed to those 5 people that for the next quarter, I am going to paint these 52 Lizardmen, paint the Green Knight to what I'm happy to call a display standard, and launch the YouTube channel with a quarterly update for quarter 2 and a quarterly update for quarter 3. Those are the 3 rocks, the 3 key priorities, the 3 targets for the next 3 months. If this is something that you found interesting, if this is something that you enjoy, if maybe you're someone who, like me, has quite a substantial pile of shame or pile of opportunity or backlog, and you would like to hammer it, you would like to, in a more structured, in a more considered, in a more accountable and productive way, work your way through those models, maybe leave a comment down below. It would be fantastic if we had a little community built up who were all breaking some quarterly targets down and helping to keep each other motivated, helping to keep each other accountable, and keeping track of what we're doing every step of the way. If you'd like to see a little bit more detail, if you'd like to see a little bit more of the process behind Hammer the Backlog, if you'd like to see weekly updates of what's being painted, what are the problems, what are the issues, do go and visit the blog. It's available on www.hammerthebacklog.com. The blog is and always will be the main driving force behind this project. Really what we're doing with this video series is having meetings. It's very difficult to have meetings on your own. So that's why I am doing this to you, the camera, and the dear viewers, however many or few there are. But the blog remains the heart of it. Every week, every Thursday, the blog will be updated with the latest models which have been painted, the targets that have been achieved, the targets that have been missed, and any thoughts during the day. If you'd like to keep up with just the models on a week-to-week basis and you don't want to hear about any of this project-based stuff, then Hammer the Backlog is also on Instagram at hammer_the_backlog. Thank you very much for staying this long if you've enjoyed this video. I hope the combination of interesting models and an approach to painting in an organized way, and the approach to being accountable to yourself, an approach to getting your backlog done in a productive way was interesting for you. If it was, please give us a little like and maybe keep an eye out for the next video. Until then, please do visit the blog at www.hammerthebacklog.com or leave me a lovely message at hammerthebacklog on Instagram. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next time.